Sign up with BetMGM Sports using code CAPITAL200 and win $200 in free bets when you place a $10 moneyline wager on any Major League Baseball game and either team hits a home run. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Washington, D.C. only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Hi there, I am Adam Kirbas. I'm here in Turkey, in Ordu. We are still in the pandemic. I record this podcast every day. So I, in that sense, I have time here in Ordu. I'm here in my parents' home, so time is abundant. That's why I am being allowed or have the possibility to upload every day a podcast I write every day. You may have read some of my fiction on Wattpad and so on, as well as and then of course I some sort of recall everything I say here from my memory. I did not have the chance in the university to talk about these things. In the University of Vienna, people were concerned with other stuff, gruesome stuff, and this is now some sort of the possibility to talk about this. I recall most of it from my memory, from things I read, about ideas I had and never really expressed or could not express due to some very dire circumstances within the university. However, we will some sort of continue today in the millennial age with feminism. We talked about free gender types, and we will continue with that, but I will some sort of again give some sort of a background and why feminism in the millennial age is important, yes, but feminism is as important or has become as important as LGBTQ issues as well as racism. Think of the Me Too movement, of the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as gay rights or the LGBTQ rights. This constant discussion whether transsexuals are allowed to compete in sports events and whatsoever. So this is a big issue. Feminism has become not the sole issue. And we have to be aware of one thing, and this is that the millennial age, or that millennial socialism always used to compare itself to the glorious revolution, especially in Europe, the 68er Bewegung in German, so this 68 generation baby boomer, which enacted, according to some socialists, enacted this revolution, this sexual revolution, and in this leftist revolution, this is in fact not true. The first socialist, some sort of the first socialist, if you want to say, politics were enacted after the First World War. After the First World War in Italy, they are called the Pentirossi, those two glorious years, as well as in Vienna, the Red Vienna, which were there in Vienna. New housing was enacted, social programs were enacted, and so on. So socialist movement became before that, as well as the sexual liberalization of women started actually already earlier, started already in the workers' uh, community. However, but still because of this this revolution, this flower power, if you want, this was rather in those elite circles, and many people from the elite circles still mourn this era, and they some sort of think the only thing they are this past sexual revolution, some sort of omitted, was the LGBTQ rights, and they wanna somehow make up for it and so on. I mean, because racism was a part of it, especially in the USA, in America, the civil rights movement. In Europe, there was not really some sort of a civil rights movement. Is that the fact that Europe's, especially after the or it started after the First World War, and then was concluded after the Second World War. That in Europe, mostly homogeneous societies were built. I mean, only think about the Habsburg monarchy, uh, which was before it before its fall a multicultural empire, and then it was dissolved, as well as the Ottoman Empire, as well as other cities like the German Empire, and so on. So in Europe, the civil rights movement was not really or was differently perceived, and in Europe, some sort of played a political party, and then there are differences, and of course, what I did not mention, because I thought this would go too much in detail, but nevertheless I wanted to mention this as well, so to those people who might not know much about feminist approaches. There is not one feminist approach. There are actually a lot of feminist approaches, but there are three main approaches, which are, if you want, part of the feminist mainstream. The first approach is the materialist feminism, as the name already suggests. This is a very communistic approach. This is women who are determined by their material situation. However, we talked about this a little bit, so that in this approach, feminists, or the cause of feminism, is rather subordinated for this grand proletarian revolution, and feminists in that sense should rather some sort of work with men to accomplish some certain task. Material feminists, this is rather you want to say, the far left. The far left has this approach. Then, of course, there is liberal feminism. This is rather among moderates. This liberal feminism is rather, you find it within laws, that they want to enact more laws, or want to make women through law equal, so that they look after sexistic laws, or laws which put women into a disadvantage, and then try to fight them. I mean, you could say that some sort of this is a feminism which is very popular in the US. This has because in the US politics is closely aligned with law. Many politicians have a law degree. Many politicians are in a way close to law. This is different, different, different. For example, to China and to other countries, whereas in China, for example, many of those political elites, they are actually engineers, so they do not have any law degree whatsoever. However, and the first string of feminism is deconstructivistic feminism. This is after Judith butler, and this approach of feminism is very popular in LGBTQ communities. It is a feminism about questioning power relations which are enwritten on the body, and this approach questions not only the social gender what we are doing here, but as well as the sexual gender. So that Judith Butler argued that your biological sex can be constructed as well. I mean, there are indeed some thoughts and discussions to that. I mean, this is one of those main issues. Is this true? I mean, I personally say without any uh, talking about politics that if that it is not through the argumentation, it is not very evident that it's not clear how biological sex is being or is constructed. However, these are those three political or as well as feminist branches as well as political branches, because which part of feminism you belong to is partially determined by your preferences, but as well as determined which political group you belong to. This has indeed, especially in the academic sphere, this is very important. We will talk about this in a later episode where I wanna talk a little bit about leftism, how it developed, what's the difference between baby boomers and now, and I will then talk about some you would say some separation politics within the universities, within the academic sphere or in the intellectual sphere. So left does not mean left. There are many groups within the left movement as well as other movements, and this all plays into that. I mean, yesterday we talked about housewives that maybe I want to clear this up again, and I want to emphasize this again, that there is indeed reasonable. It is indeed reasonable that a woman, even though she might have all options and career options, still chooses to be a woman. That this is not. I did not meant to deride housewives whatsoever. Nevertheless, statistics show, and I talked about some that, especially if you're unskilled woman, that you some sort of the job as a housewife may come hard to you as a relief. In this episode, we will talk about super girls, and this is, you want to say, the quite opposite. These are actually women who accomplished something, who climbed the social ladder, and I named this gender super girl because of the reason that if you want to accomplish as a woman or something in this society, you have to put in more effort than man. You have to have like this comic woman. I think it's from Marvel. You have to have some supernatural skills. You have to be above average in order to make it work. And it demands a lot of these women, and they are mostly super smart, have above average skills, and so on. And this is the reason why we call them super girls. And they some sort of went through all these processes and then could make it happen. But this comes with some issues, and we will talk about this I mean, one thing is indeed clear is that in order to that this rise in a male dominated society, that this comes with a price, that you have to adopt one issue is that you have to adopt to certain male behavior. Again, this has to do with the fact that most of these business enterprises whatsoever, this already started in these schools. For example, all these elite schools, where many parents, or one huge advantage of elite schools, especially in the US and in Great Britain, is actually that you socialize with certain people who then later become vital for your business interests and whatsoever, and so on, and these man groups, these man cliques, they started very early, especially then when women were not allowed to obtain higher education. So this is some sort of a historic, and these are historic uh, spaces where men have asserted their dominance, and to accomplish something in these spheres is indeed difficult. This is, you can imagine this, if there is a male group and if a girl wants to be part of this group, this is some sort of a bit awkward. I mean, uh, this is something you know from your daily life. This is not only sexist. I mean, it is as well as psychological. I mean, if you have four friends, there is one woman who wants to be part of it. This is always awkward, and so on. And of course, these elites, these companies, or these boards, these groups, they are always very closed groups. They have their own mechanism, they have their own structure, their own belief and whatsoever. And everyone who wants to be admitted in these groups has to be, or prove their worthiness. I mean, this is sadly, I mean, there are indeed some sad developments where one group or intellectual elite tries to hide something and bars everyone from it. I mean, there were some hideous occurrences which hopefully only a few new, or maybe more new, especially in Austria. However, but these are mostly closed groups, in order, as well as the behavior of the personnel is high is highly um, ordered, is highly observed, like a sorority. I mean, if you want to be part of a sorority, there are certain rules. These are people who's a closed knit community, and they understand each other. And as a woman, again, if you want to be part of these women, or part of this group, you have to have some sort of certain male behavior, or have to have, in a way, manly. Think about, this was very common in Austria, or I witnessed this Austria, uh, this so-called skater women. So there were some women who some sort of enjoyed driving with a skateboard and so on, and you could see them. They were dressed like men, in a way, with this baggy trousers, with this cap, and with this skater shoes, and so on. And they acted like men. They had hair cuts like men, and so on and so on. I mean, so you have to adopt in a way to a certain degree, uh, so that you are being admitted. I mean, everyone has this kind of women sees them around. So it is not only in the high top sphere, it is as well as in your daily life. There you will always find some women who want to be part of a male group or associate themselves with a male group and so on. And there are, of course, this pathway or this way is paved with obstacles and, of course, with isolation, because not many women choose this path, because in order to accomplish something in a male-dominated society or in a career, I mean, if you think about a business, uh, these pathways are prone to failure. It is hard, and you have to have a lot of self-esteem indeed, or a belief in yourself, because failure is very likely, especially as a woman. You could be the best suitable candidate for the job, but yet still people or still a male candidate would be chosen over you, which actually happens. So there are statistics which show that women are mostly uh, passed or do not get promoted as often as men, so they some sort of left behind because of the women. Then of course these women are being hated of men. I mean, this is still a male hierarchy. Again, this is some sort of historic growth, or it it was through historic it is historically grown. So men hate women, and other women envy them. So there is always you could see so, some of these instances. For example, women who are not ambitious as other women, there is some sort of envy them, and of course, of course, in order to accomplish something, and if you adopt to male behavior, then you are not considered male or feminine, and of course you have to hide your femininity in a way, or in order to do not rouse suspicion, because we know from some toxic relationships within offices there are still some toxic relationships, and we only had new laws only recently, so women struggle a little bit in this, or not a little bit, but they are being, not only as a woman are you being passed over when it comes to promotion, but as well as you become victim to sexual harassment and so on. So this means as a woman, in order to succeed in this domain, in this male domain, you must not draw attention. You must not draw too much attention, especially no attention through your femininity, because in a way, attractive woman or man partially want attractive women to be subordinated and so on, so that they have control over them. This does not mean that super girls, that they are all unattractive and so on, but they have to some sort of cover up their feminine aspect, especially if they work in a branch with a lot of men, and if they have to compete with a lot of men, because women are always being considered emotional and so on, and men, this is an assumption, because man would have experience as the sole breadwinner of the family. We talked about this gender, this derives from the military and so on, so that man would know by nature or by experience, whatever, how to lead, how to be the head of the family. That's why it is always assumed that man would know how to lead, whereas women would not. Women are too emotional and so on. So this means as a woman, you have to prove some sort of your worthiness. There's actually a lot of literature about this issue, very interesting. So intersectionalism is the key word for this. The women, how they act or how they have to act in institutions, how they are get being acknowledged. So intersectionalism, or those who want to find out more, this is indeed interesting. There is a lot of literature written about this issue. And then, of course, there are a lot of disadvantages of the super girl. But again, let me remind you that there is indeed a driving force to become some sort of a super girl, especially of this liberation of women. There is indeed pressure to be that way, but as well as that, there are of course some disadvantage which comes with that we some way talked about this, and this is that you have to put your personal life back. Then again, that those super girls, they have to go through all these institutions, have to some sort of in a way raise awareness, but do not draw attention for their feminine attributes. So they it and it takes longer for these women to some sort of climb the company ladder. They have to put in a lot of work, and this all, of course, your private life suffers, as well as you may not have many friendships as well, uh, especially female friendships which are beyond your family, and friendships which are beyond your work. So this means that you, in the millennial age, if you have friends who are not from your social background, but from many backgrounds, then you are well connected. It doesn't matter whether they are wealthy or poor or whatever, but in the age of internet, in the age of Facebook, one assumes or hopes or thinks that you would have more friends, at least not those with whom you grew up with, and this is actually indeed the case, because if you go to university and if you come from a poor background like I am, or not poor but from working class, then university can indeed give you the opportunity to socialize with a lot of different people from different social backgrounds. In that case, a university is not bad, but of course, if you have to share your time with people who just hate hate you for what you are, then these things may not be suitable. And of course, if you spend most of your time in libraries or have to work, have to do these things, then you have not time to make friends. And these women, you have to be aware, they go in these male dominated areas, and they then where the fewer and fewer women, your private life suffers. So you cannot maintain friendships, because you have to do more work, because you have to put in always this extra effort, and this then leads to isolation. And then of course these women will suffer or have it a lot difficult to find male suitors, male partners, because these women are mostly above average intelligent, they are very smart. This is some sort of threatening to many men, because society still wants them man to lead, still wants some sort of male self-assurance, and a woman, despite the fact that she may be in her character and demeanor modest, but has accomplished a lot, maybe threatening for man, and it is indeed why it can be threatening. So these women, they have it difficult, and of course this because super girls adapt to masculine character traits, so they have masculine behavior. They mostly attract one certain type of man. I mean, what I want to talk about now, and this some sort of again hits in the spot of female quota, and this is of course the belief that if you bring in more women in the institutions, of course we have to be here very careful, but it is the thought is why super girls do not really help some sort of bring in more feminist issues into why now you have some sort of super girls in these departments, in these companies and so on. Why don't do why are there not more female issues, or why are they rather cautious in accomplishing these or in bringing forward uh, female issues? I mean, one reason is that if you as a woman rise through the ranks, and especially if you in a male company or in a male society institution whatsoever, then you always have to be careful, don't to not to incur the wrath of your superiors as well as your equals. So this means that you have to be rather obedient, you have to be some rather complacent with this structure whatsoever, or you don't get promoted. So in order to accomplish something in your career, you will rather be cautious, will not bring in feminist issues, because you still need it doesn't matter how high you or what you accomplish in a company, you still need approval of other men, and other men, especially if you're a woman, will challenge this woman, will see more faults, of course, because she's a woman. Every eyes are on her. Everyone sees her faults, and this mostly leads to the fact that this woman mostly hold back with feminist agenda. So because it is not smart, it is not. You have to be very cautious. The next thing, of course, is because of this toxic climate, partially, it's not always true. These women are mostly asexuals, and or in a way are being considered asexual. So this they somehow are not being really taken seriously by feminist groups or whatsoever. Think only about issues. Or recent example in Germany, the German chancellor and so on. I mean, this is despite the fact that she is a woman, she does not really bring in feminist issues, or at least it is not perceived by women. I mean, of course, every political party will announce and that they would be supporting feminist issues and so on, or Theresa May in Great Britain, and before that Margaret Thatcher, but yet these women did not really put forward in feminist issues, and because they need the support of their male colleagues, it is actually likely that, especially if they are alone in these institutions or these companies, if they are alone and if they still need consensus. This will rather they will be susceptible and prone to male point of views. So this this female gender of super guys. I mean, it appears that way. They put a lot of effort into accomplishing something, but it is some sort of society does not award them. They don't get the same appreciation than other man in the same position, because the women are still measured as bearing children, and being a woman is being still considered to bear children, and then these women some sort of are not identified as women and so on, and this is further makes it very difficult for them, especially when they are always torn between family planning and career, because maternity leave is still, they are still disadvantaged, or have still suffer disadvantages if they take maternity leave, if they want to raise their children. And this has not to do with, and this is not only because the man would be sexistic, but if you stay away from work, especially if you work in a technological company, if you stay away half a year, 1 year, or even 2 years, then all your knowledge is some sort of old. You cannot use it anymore. This is what many of us went through. It is part of the technological age, this fast development, and no one can really keep up. And then there are of course family being children would be a huge hindrance in your career. So these women or it is very difficult for them to decide for children and and for family, and it has of course not attractivity, but because if the fall is just so gigantic. I mean, if you are sitting the company board and then you are a housewife, these things are different. This was the female gender of the super girl. I mean, I gave a very brief and concise summarize. I mean, this is again. I mean, that is literature is abundant, especially about feminism. The Me Too movement has enacted a lot. So that is indeed, especially American or English speaking or literature written in English by native speakers, because they know how to write books. I mean, if I compare them to German authors, they always write very complicated and exhausting. It is rather to prove that they have intellectual prowess, whereas English native speakers, they have really some sort of a fine way to write. I mean, they probably learn it in the school or whatever. So you can read a lot very interesting stuff about this topic, and it is indeed very important. Feminism is indeed one of the keystones within the millennial age, which had a big issue for the thought processes. I mean, one point of course is this Me Too movement, but do not make a mistake about this. Me Too movement was rather about white women. I mean, this is one of the issues we will talk about later, is that the black woman, that they are not in the same way sexualized as the white woman. So this plays indeed in this issue, and that feminism has, of course, many facets or many approaches and points of view. But I will some sort of omit this conservative feminism. There is an approach, some sort of which assumes that which pretty much has this approach that women would be more sentimental, or which some sort of adopts those prejudices and then accepts them in face value. I don't think it makes much sense to talk about these things, but I wanted to mention it. There are conservative approaches, but I don't know any author. I've forgotten the names of it. So for those who wanna talk about this again as well, this is indeed something one should read about, even though one is a man. However, this was Adem Kirbas from Ordu. I am here in Turkey in the pandemic. It is a sunny day today. I hope you all are doing fine and that you take care of yourselves, and that we somewhere, somehow, some way get past through this pandemic, and then that we can move on. Bye.
There are more ways to celebrate than ever before at the Jeep Celebration event. Hurry in for great deals today on the only brand that lets you go anywhere and do anything. And now financing get $2,500 total cash allowance on the purchase of a 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee WK Laredo 4x4. Don't miss this great offer. Hurry into the Jeep Celebration event today. Financing for all qualified buyers through Chrysler Capital. Not all buyers will qualify. Residency restrictions apply. Must take retail delivery by 5/2/22. Jeep is a registered trademark.